The Empress is a wonderful card. It carries on that feminine aspect that we had in the previous card with the Priestess. It tells us about our relationship with nature, a connection with the fertile aspects of life, the beauty of the natural world. It's a very caring, feminine, motherly card. And in fact, when we begin to look at the Thoth Priestess here, we can understand that she is not just nurturing of a child, but is nurturing of the entire universe, and her milk is that of Kether, of spiritual light. She is yet again a card filled with duality and of the fluid nature of spirit and microcosm and of macrocosm as one. Now we'll notice straight away that the Empress is facing to the right hand side, and at least some of this won't become apparent until the next card, that of the Emperor, in that we can see if we put them together that the two cards are actually facing each other, and so the Empress is connected very much with Venus and the Emperor will be Mars, and so we have the relationship there between the goddess of love having an affair with the god of war in our Greek classical mythology. However, to stick with just the Empress card for now, she's connected so much with nature and the nurturing aspects of nature and of life. And if we just flip over to the Rider-Waite, a more popular tarot deck, just for a moment, we can actually see that natural aspect in the background of the card, where you can see an abundance of green trees and a yellow sun, all sorts of nature symbols surrounding her on the card. On the Tree of Life, she has this path here between Binar and Shokmar, which is the path of luminous intelligence, so we have that light coming in straight away. So everything within the universe contains within it an essence of spiritual light, that all life springs from the same source, this divine light which is in everything, and even the darkest things have within them that element of light. And so this path that the Empress is on expresses that spiritual light which is within every form in the universe, and most certainly on the physical plane. Binar, on the left hand side of the path there, is a universal female archetype, and it receives its male counterpart energy from across the Tree of Life in Shokmar. The Empress is ruled by Venus, and there is so much Venus symbology in the Thoth Priestess card. But sticking with the Tree of Life just for one more moment, the Venus association is quite important, because if one is to trace all of the Sephiroth, they can find that Venus is linking all of the Sephiroth together, and it's suggested that this linkage, this connection between all of them via Venus, is through the force of pure universal love. So not love in a physical sense on the physical plane, but an unconditional universal love. So looking down at the bottom of the card where the Empress's name is written, we can see here on the right hand side straight away the symbol of Venus. And over on the left hand side we have yet another Hebrew character. This time it is the Hebrew letter Dorleth, which is quite important for this card because it could be translated to mean door. And this word door is not a physical door such as one in your house, but is a door of which is a passageway, the door of which life comes out of and life returns to. And so it is the door between states. Many times on this channel we have spoken about this type of thing, which is the line between wake and sleep, when one is neither fully awake nor fully asleep. It's referred to as a point between, or a liminal point, and various other things like that. And so this door is that representation in the card, that this is a doorway where if you were to stand in the middle of the doorway, you would be between souls entering and souls leaving at the same time, and therefore would encompass that cycle of the duality of the universe. If we move now back to the top of the card, we can see, very similar to what we had over on the last video with the Priestess, that she is wearing the crown of Isis, and the crown of Isis encompasses within it all the phases of the moon, waxing, waning and full moon, and is similar in more modern symbols to the triple goddess imagery of which one will see in neo-pagan beliefs. And yet the moon symbology carries on even more here on the Empress card, where if we have a look, we can see that there are actually two moons surrounding the Empress on the card, and these are actually the waxing moon and the waning moon. Of particular interest, she is facing the right, and she is actually facing the waxing moon. And here the waxing moon could be taken to mean fertility and love and beauty and all the things that she represents, and so she's facing it. And her back is turned to the waning moon, and the waning moon here is associated with the letting go of things, the leaving behind of energy, the leaving behind of burdens and baggage, and moving onwards. If you look at the way of which the moons are actually positioned, it could also be taken to mean that these moons, they look as if they're revolving and circling around her. So yet again we have that flow of souls, the flow of life of the universe, and the balance of opposites in nature, which is the aim of Hermeticism, the as above and the so below. She's sitting as the priestess was upon a throne, and yet if we just have a look at the entire card, the whole card is fluid looking. It looks as if it's moving around almost with water. It looks like you could put your hand through it and it would have ripples and water and fluid moving throughout it. This is the fluidity of the Empress herself. She is a very much a feminine card, and so this fluidness represents her femininity, like water, where life is said to have actually came from in the first place, that our mother on earth is the ocean, and this fluidity is the many faces of her femininity as well in that regard. You can see all sorts of symbology connected to this, and especially connected to Venus, of course, because this is the planet of which rules her, such as the dove and the sparrow, of which you can see almost hidden away really on the card there. They're connected with Venus, and you can see it in Venus mythology if you wish to read into your classical civilizations. As well as a crown of Isis, the top of her crown here can also symbolise a Maltese cross, which is saying that at the very peak, at the very top of the consciousness of the Empress, are all four elements in absolute perfect balance, and so she is coming from that state of universal perfection. And again, if everything is within balance, then it is in between that door where all things come from and go to. Let's have a look at her actual dress, which is quite wonderful on this card, but it's very fluid looking, as we've been saying. The colour of the dress is green and pink, or rose, and these are colours which yet again symbolise Venus. There are actually bees on the dress, which is a fabulous symbol, and these bees are the hubbub of life itself, the energy of life. We also have things like such as the queen bee, of course, and all of the bees working to create their nectar, their honey. And also there's simply the idea that there are certain medicinal uses and healing compounds to be found in certain secretions and propolis which comes from the bee. So it's a wonderful symbol. You'll notice that she is holding within her right hand, and also held over the area of her heart, a bunch of lotuses. These are the lotuses of Isis. They symbolise that universal love that we've been speaking of, and they are found here against her heart, because of course this is where the universal love springs from, in our physical bodies at least, when people say, "I felt it in my heart rather than in my head," to put it in very simple terms. The spiritual path that she is symbolising here is the path of the heart. It's the path of the creation, of the love, of the caring and nurturing aspects of life, rather than the material, the mechanical and the logical. The colour of the lotus here is blue, representing yet again that water and that fluidity of which we spoke of earlier. And you will also notice that the lotus has upon it 4 petals. On the tree of life, this Sephiroth of the 4 is Chesed, which is a manifestation of love, and again it is that pure and divine love. The actual arms of the Empress are quite fascinating to look at. You can see that her arms are in such a position to suggest that she is cradling a child, even though we can actually not see the child on this particular card. This, of course, to trace it back to the roots of this deck and of the wonderful imagery, she is Isis. And of course, if she is Isis, then she is nurturing Horus, as is often seen upon these statues, these drawings, these hieroglyphs of the nurturing of Horus through Isis. This imagery has a wonderful life to it and has been reborn in a great many ways, of which I'm sure you are aware. Below her feet, and therefore at the base of her throne, is a white rose. This is yet another symbol of Venus, and therefore represents the fertility of the actual Empress. The whole card is tinged with this fertile, nurturing imagery. You can also see, again, very hidden, there's so much stuff that you can miss on these cards, two very small fish, and they are swimming in the waters. The fish swimming in the waters are, again, the feminine principle. They are swimming within the divine mother, the divine nurturing, which gives them life. There is also, nearby the fish here, a fleur-de-lis symbol. This is a heraldic image which was said to represent a type of purity, as well as a right to rule, specifically through honour and beauty and majesty. Going down now to the lower left of the card, we can see the symbol of the pelican. Now, it was thought, certainly back in the past, that the pelican would feed its young by using the blood out of its own heart. And so, of course, this is a very strange way of suggesting a nurturing. And yet, Aleister Crowley himself said that he thought of this symbol as the hay, and again the final hay, of the Tetragrammaton. And therefore it represented the continuation of life, the cyclings of life, and therefore it's something that we all have in common, in that we come from our mothers and they come from their mothers beforehand and off into infinity. On the Tetragrammaton, the final hay is transformed into the letter of Yod, and that therefore represents an earlier time, an earlier epoch in history. You will also see next to the pelican there is a shield, another heraldic symbol, and yet this shield has upon it a double-headed eagle. This is a very interesting symbol, because as well as just going back to the fleur-de-lis and the right to rule and the divine majesty of the whole thing, we can also see that the eagle has within it a waxing moon, and therefore we have straight away the symbol yet again for fertility, growth, beauty, and the coming of a new age, a new epoch, which is what we were saying before. The figure is also an alchemy symbol, the double-headed eagle, and if one is to connect this with the very feminine and female nature of the Empress card, one could trace this to a symbol of female sexuality. And very physically, there is the idea of the white tincture in alchemy connected with this, which would be the sexual fluid of the female. Now, it's quite interesting because once we move on to the Emperor card, which will be the next video after this, we will come across the eagles yet again, yet they're in a different colour and have, as you can imagine, a different meaning. And so really the key element here with the Empress card is that door symbol that we had right at the beginning. The Empress is telling us that that doorway and the access into that doorway, which is the doorway into spirit, into Kether, the spiritual light, the way through that doorway is love, and this universal love is the way to enlightenment. It is the goal of the great work, which is what these cards are symbolizing. This spiritual path is not one of separation, it's not one of materialism, as we've said, where everything is logical and put into little pigeonholes, and this is that and this is the other. Instead, she's telling us to seek the emotion of our hearts, the pure, maternal, caring and wondrous emotion of the spirit of our hearts,